Mold isn't real. Mold can't hurt you. Okay, maybe mold can hurt you. But I wasn't lying about that first part. Mold isn't real. What we think of as mold, the things you might find on your food, clothes, walls, or on your foot, actually comprise a group of massively diverse organisms. Take Alexander Fleming's famous antibiotic-producing Penicillium. Taking a look under the scope, you'll see thousands upon thousands of spores. Given enough time and nutrients, they can shed millions, if not billions of spores in just a few days. Contrast this with the common bread mold. If you've seen this one before, it's probably been on bread or pasta. It's a bit harder to identify, but you're probably looking at something in the genera Mucor or Rhizopus. Instead of individual spores, these fungi produce sporangia, large masses of spores that eject when the conditions are just right. An individual sporangium will hold many spores which disperse better when they're ejected together. But this is just the tip of the moldberg. Green molds, black molds, blue-green molds. These terms are helpful for you and me. If, for instance, you eat a mold, see, this title isn't clickbait, we will be talking about how to eat mold. A doctor or nurse, for instance, would benefit from knowing the color of mold you ate. It's a lot harder to own a microscope setup, know fungal physiology, find a spore structure, and then identify it using a handbook from the 1960s that used terminology that make no damn sense.
What the hell does tell verticillately arranged mean? What?
So we look at color or substrate to identify these molds, but it overlooks the true diversity of these organisms. Regardless of my disdain for the term mold, I'll use it for this video, and get to what you're really here for. How can I eat mold? Timestamps there for your convenience. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're going to exclude things like mushrooms and yeasts for now, namely the Saccharomyces or Candida you find in your baked goods, or bread, or wine. These things will be off the table for today's moldy feast.
So we'll start with things that are nearly pure mold, and that list is a whopping one thing. Corn. No, not corn the band, corn the grain, einkorn the grain. Corn with a QU, the meat substitute product. Corn is based off of the mold Fusarium venenatum. Combine this fungus with water, carbohydrates, and proprietary ingredients to get mycoprotein. Trademark. Hey, this is VoiceOver Clancy. I went to buy the corn, and when I got there, there's a bunch of other fungus meat alternatives. Here's the ones I could find, here's the ones made of mold, and here's how much mold they're made out of. I'm going to do a quick thing about eating them all later, but not right now. Back to the video about mold. Okay, bye!
They sell them in these big hulking blocks, but they also sell them in these patties, which I'm about to try for the first time. Homogeneous.
Technicalities also go into this category. Things like citric acid, antibiotics, statins, yada yada. Things that are all produced by fungi that are purified. It's not really a food, but who cares? Put in this category. But let's say you're not a mold-pilled myco-chad, and this mold is just way too much for you. Maybe these foods will satiate your mold cravings. The most famous examples are soft ripened cheeses, things like Camembert, Coulommiers, and of course, Brie. The fungus most often used with these cheeses is Penicillium camemberti, popularized by the Camembert commune where the cheese was invented by Marie Harel. Alongside Penicillium, Geotrichum candidum is often added. The fluffy mycelium of these molds is repeatedly pressed down by flipping and during final packaging, causing that final rind to be nearly 100% mold. If you want, you can eat just the rind and then email me the rest of the cheese at These and other cheeses may have other molds involved in the ripening process, such as commensal Aspergillus or Penicillium, or other contaminant molds like Mucor, Cladosporium, Aspergillus. While I can't speak for all producers, unwanted mold means straight to the garbage 99% of the time. This is especially true in our next food, meat rinds. Now, big caveat here, don't eat mold if it's on your meat. Side effects of eating moldy meat range from stomach pain to liver and kidney failure, death. Obligatory, I am not a doctor, not medical advice. So meat rinds, they're the exception to this rule. While not all aged meats will have mold on them, the ones that do make it known. The bright white on cured sausages is caused by Penicillium, while the wispy gray growth found on dry aged meat is likely caused by a combination of Penicillium, Aspergillus, and Eurotium species. The former is very edible, and sometimes a sign of good meat. The latter, well, While the thicker rinds of soft ripened cheese are easy to separate, you'll have to pull out your sharpest knife to get just the mold on these meats. Dry-aged beef and other cured meats like jamon or prosciutto will have mold on them. Common wisdom is to cut these parts, the pellicle or rind, off for the better meat inside. They've been exposed to air for days, weeks, months, or even years, and are as dry as a post-one responded to message board. While you can maybe eat them, trying to eat the mold is a bit of a fool's errand. You'll probably get more meat than mold, so eat at your own risk. Not a doctor, not medical.
Now's the time we should get to the core of the mold edibility issue before we keep molding out of our minds. I've been saying Aspergillus is both a contaminant and something that's edible, so what gives? Molds, alongside being diverse, are rich in strains. Nowhere is this more true than in Aspergillus. In the same family as Penicillium, Aspergillus plays roles as both friend and foe. We often see Aspergillus as a soil fungus, where it decomposes organic matter. We find it on our food for much the same reason. Our food is made of carbs, relatively simple carbs compared to those found in wood, cellulose, and lignin. So when Aspergillus makes its way onto your food, it goes buck wild. This happens through the sporulation process, and yes, that means Aspergillus is in the air you breathe and most of the food you eat. Sorry? The end product after days, weeks, or months is about as edible as your average box of fleshly. We generally don't see problems breathing these spores in if you're the average human, but if you're immune compromised, I'm so sorry. You gotta stop breathing. No, I'm just kidding. Or am I? Aspergillus aside, Aspergillus can contain toxins, including highly potent aflatoxins, Aspergillus flavus being the most well-studied species, though, once again, not all strains of Aspergillus flavus contain the aflatoxin. As a soil fungus, it prevents predation from animals. The presence of aflatoxin in human or animal food is both directly toxic to your liver, but also highly carcinogenic, and, as a bonus, will mess up the development of children. Having this toxin has aided the fungus greatly. You understand this implicitly. Taking a whiff of a blue-green mold like Aspergillus is musty and makes you not want to eat whatever food it's on. This is a survival response to a chemical defense. This toxicity tracks for most mammals and, as far as we've studied, all animals. When I say edible Aspergillus, I'm referring to two main species, Aspergillus oryzae and Aspergillus luchuensis, two species which are by and large non-toxic. This is true for many molds, including species in Penicillium and Mucor, which have species that are both highly delicious and highly toxic, though usually not within the same species. We've discovered and cultured specific species and sometimes specific strains specifically for food use. Think of these strains as you would modern dogs or cats. While some people might try to pet a wolf or eat mold off their food, best practice is to stick to what's in the grocery store. These fungi have been with us for centuries and in some cases, millennia. This diversity and dichotomy within molds is what makes them so fascinating as a group of organisms. And while I don't specialize in mold, I can appreciate them for the diverse and interesting organisms they are, edible or not.
But back to the important stuff. How can I eat mold? Our next category are products that have mold deliberately inoculated into the final product, as well as a secret second thing. What? The first high mold food item we have is koji. While it's not really a food, it is to fermentation as yeast is to baking. Koji is rice inoculated with Aspergillus oryzae. While it's used to inoculate some of our later moldy foods, let's move on to the real food items. Red oncom. Now, this one is a favorite. It's so rare you see something just so beautifully orange. Like me. Red oncom is a traditional Indonesian dish that combines agricultural byproducts such as soy, spent rye, barley, or cassava with a mold known as Neurospora intermedia. For those who work at farms or labs, you probably just jump back there. Neurospora intermedia is a highly transmissible fungus. It'll grow and outcompete anything that it's on, petri dish, bag, anything. If you see its bright orange growth in your lab, incubator, or grow room, you're already screwed. This headache of a fungus, however, produces a product that is sustainable and delicious. You can deep fry it, stir fry it, or as we mold maxers do, shove into our mouth without asking any questions. Next we have tempeh and black oncom. I'm grouping these two together because we're running low on time and also because they use the same fungus, Rhizopus oligosporus. While black oncom mirrors its red cousin using various agricultural products, tempeh only uses whole soybeans. Tempeh is seen as a health food, so it's actually pretty widely available. I'd recommend it. Our secret second thing before we move on to the last thing in our category is the lobster mushroom. Oh, Clancy, you said we weren't involving mushrooms. Hold on a second. Lobster mushrooms are different in that they're not just a mushroom. The base fungus is usually a species of Lactarius or Russula, two highly successful species of fungi that are present all over the world. And if you're that successful, you're going to have some predators. In comes our moneymaker, Hypomyces. Hypomyces comes in and grows crazy quickly. It covers the mushroom entirely in its growth, covering the spore-bearing surfaces and the cap in an orange and white growth. This red and white part is a sheath that covers the whole mushroom and is mostly mold. This sheath allows for spore dispersal, allowing this cycle to repeat again and again. The resulting fruity bodies, however, taste like lobster. Go figure. This last one I actually didn't know about before making this video. It's Mao tofu, also known as hairy tofu. The Chinese preparation utilizes Mucor Micheli to produce a hair-like appearance and a newfound funk that I'm told is, why are you asking me this? I've never eaten that. Stop texting me.
Okay, another sidebar. I've told you molds are diverse, but not exactly how diverse. Let's take red and black oncom. These two don't even share a phylum. Now, I could take any random animal phyla and go, oh, that's like the difference between humans and annelids.
Stupid annelids.
But we're going to be good scientists, and instead of using phylogeny, use time. The two groups these two fungi are in, Ascomycete and Mucormycetes, diverged 400 million years ago. Take that in for a second. 400 million years. This was the Devonian period. The only things on land were arthropods. Bryophytes weren't even up to your knee. Those are your ferns and mosses for all you who forgot your high school biology like me.
That's like calling me and Nibbler here tetrapods, because we both have 4 limbs. And love corn.
Back to eating mold. This is about where I'd end the has mold in it category, so take that as you will. Blue cheese, penicillium, enough said. Soy stuff, I told you we'd get back to koji. Aspergillus oryzae is used to inoculate the various soy pastes found in Asian cultures, such as miso, doenjang, dobanjang, gochujang, etc. All highly delicious mold. Okay. One last sidebar. I've been avoiding the question, why are we eating mold?
This video started as sort of a mold tier list for mold-containing foods, but why do we use mold for food? The short answer is flavor, but the long answer is actually some really interesting food science. Every organism contains digestive enzymes, but fungi produce their enzymes extracellularly, meaning they release them and then grow into the newly nutrient-rich zones. The corresponding human equivalent would be throwing up on your food and then sitting in it. These extracellular enzymes include carbohydrate-breaking enzymes such as cellulase, protein-breaking enzymes such as protease, and fat-breaking enzymes, lipase. These biological macromolecules are linked forms of individual subunits, such as simple sugars, amino acids, or triglycerides. These can be fully broken down. Amino acids like glutamate or fatty acids taste really good to us humans, but they can also break down unevenly, leaving differently lengthened strands of amino acids and sugars that correspond to a more complex taste. Compound this with the Maillard reaction, the reaction that causes food to brown. Think a nice char on a steak or broccoli. You can turn these complex flavors even more complex and delicious. Alongside the flavor benefits, mold can be a physical barrier to prevent contaminants, Penicillium, Aspergillus, Cladosporium, Mucor. You get it by now. This is most true for aged cheeses and meats. Imagine it as dropping from an airplane. If you knew you were going to land safely, would you rather be dropped on an island full of cannibals or at a golden corral? Maybe not the best metaphor, but you get it. If there's already good molds, bad mold has no room to establish.
On to the lightning round, because who cares? These things are the LaCroix of mold. Pu'er and other wet-pilled tea, fermented with Aspergillus. Sake, early stages, fermented with Aspergillus. Soy sauce and tamari, fermented with Aspergillus. Fish sauce, where's your sister sauce, oyster sauce, fermented with Aspergillus. Rice and fruit vinegar, that's right, fermented with Aspergillus. And last but not least, chocolate. During the fermentation process, yeasts are followed by lactic acid bacteria, then acetic acid bacteria, then mold. Much of this mold is removed due to the shelling and further processing of the cacao, so big L in my opinion. And that's the list. Truly, the pinnacle of mycological knowledge. I really appreciate you making it to the end of the video. I'm hoping I'm continuing making content about mushrooms and other fungi. I'm making a video about fungi in video games, so keep an eye out for that. There's a lot you can learn, even though it's not the most realistic. Spoilers. But anyways, I got one more thing here. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will now be having 300 pounds of mold poured on me. What? Oh,